What's going on, world? I'm your girl today, and I decided I was going to bring my boy on to have a discussion about cannabis. Now, today's recording is going to be a little different. Normally, I record my podcast and we do not have a public audience. But because we were so hot on this cannabis thing, and then on Friday, March the 13th, we haven't had any discussion, I said, well, who is the number one influencer in the cannabis space? Look, outside of Snoop Doggy Dogg, right? I said, we got our own person here in the city of Chicago, and that would be Mr. Michael Malcolm. What's going on today?
What is going on? You got me hot under the collar with that type of intro. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm just going to blow you up today because I met you at a real estate continuing education course. Okay. So look, your good looks, you got good looks, but you're also a licensed broker here in the state of Illinois. And we had a serious cannabis discussion. Was that 2-3 years ago?
It was about almost 2 years ago. It was
2 years ago.
It was right around this time, matter of fact. It was right around this time of the year because I remember what was going on. It was a lot going on. And at the time I approached you with it. You were really one of the first people I actually told my idea to in my head. Because, you know, I had taken your classes before. And so I just knew that you always had great energy and I always enjoyed your classes. And so I just knew that I felt like I could talk to you about it. Even though I didn't know you that well, I felt comfortable enough with sharing my idea with you and just getting some feedback on someone who I consider to be, you know, obviously a professional in the industry, and just wanted to get some insight on what my peers would think of something like that, especially some people who do it at a level as high as yourself. So you encouraging me to do it meant everything at that time, because you were one of the few people that wasn't in like my immediate circle that said yes to it, which is, again, like I said, it wasn't like, you know, people who I knew just smoke weed. I didn't know if you smoke weed or not, you know, and that's why I don't know if you remember, I actually waited until the end of the class. Everybody was gone. I was like, can I talk to you about something? Like, I didn't want anybody to even hear me talking to you about it because of the stigma, you know, that surrounded it. So
now what's funny, I have smoked weed 3 times in life. The first time I was 30 years old. I've had some edibles, so I've tried some different things, right? I wouldn't say I'm a weed smoker. However, when you came to me, you were clear about where you fit in the cannabis market. And at the time, it wasn't you just talking about cannabis. You were actually, first of all, you had professional cameras. You were traveling around the world, and you were doing cannabis and food pairings. And you said, you know, like you pair your wine with your food. I thought about it. I said, oh, I can give my munchie. Like, let me say this. Even though I don't smoke weed, I was raised in a household with weed smokers. Okay. So my mom and my daddy kept that top of the shoebox under the bed where you used to have to sort your seeds right with the top. And look, they only had one type of wrapper. It was tops, and it was yellow, right? And they'd scrape to get their seeds out, right? And then, I mean, I could probably really wrap me some good weed. And then they take that thing and they lick it right and turn it on the end. So let me say this. I knows about, look, I don't even know about cannabis. I knows about me some reefer, right? Because that's what they called it. I just need to take you back to 1975. You weren't even born. Reefer. And you were serious, and you actually had the social proof. So you showed me an Instagram feed. You had traveled extensively. You had done your research. But what I really liked was that you wanted to have a respect for the real estate industry and pairing this and how would this look. Now, this is what is amazing. Your life has changed. Like, I have seen you morph before my eyes in 24 months. Timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
And one thing that stands out, you were willing to do it when it was not popular.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, you know, obviously first to market is going to reap the best rewards, you know, and it seems like I acted fast, but the truth is it was something that I really had been thinking about doing for a long time. And it just was one of those things where I saw the legalization of cannabis coming on the market, coming to the Illinois market in 2018. And so it was really one of those things where I knew that if I didn't put my actions into and put my thoughts into actions, that I might miss my boat. I might miss my mark. So I really kind of I forced myself. I had no idea what I was doing. I was not a blogger. I traveled a lot. I didn't blog about it. I never wrote reviews about the restaurants that I ate at all the time. I don't write reviews on Yelp. I eat everywhere. Same thing with my traveling. I would travel, but I never wrote reviews about it, so I didn't understand what blogging really meant or what I needed to be doing, or even what people really wanted to hear from me. And I still feel like I'm still learning. But I tell people all the time when they ask me about how to do things, and I just say, man, just do it. Just do it and then figure it out later. But yeah, I definitely had respect for the industry, the real estate industry. And like I said, my peers as well. I'm an at properties realtor. I went to Mike and Thad early 2018, right around this time as well. Right around this time, I talked to my people and I said, look, I have an idea. I have an idea. They followed me on Instagram already because I was traveling and eating at restaurants. So they knew I was doing a lot of that. And I just went to them. I said, hey, I'm about to start posting a whole lot of weed. I said, but one thing I promise you, it's going to be, number one, it's going to be legal and it's going to be tasteful. But I don't want it to negatively reflect on at properties or anybody that I work with. So I just want to make sure that I come to you before I post anything. It might have even been the same week I was talking to you, because I talked to you about it and I talked to them, and they encouraged me. They said, go for it. And they still encourage me to this day.
Now, I know that you're doing a lot in the space, and every time I talk to you, you enlighten me to another opportunity that exists in the space. And honestly, none of it has anything to do with smoking. Like,
No.
yeah, you can smoke your heart out, right? Mm. But nothing we've talked about has anything to do with smoking. So I think it's okay for you to talk about, right? Because you already got the jump on them. What are some of the opportunities inside of the marijuana space? If you could give me your top 3 opportunities that other people don't think about, but you're already vested in that space inside of this industry.
Sure. So the first thing is ancillary businesses, which is more of an umbrella term, but there's a lot of different ways you can break that down. So ancillary is anything that is not actually touching the flower itself. So you're not growing the plant, you're not selling the plant, you're not packaging or turning the plant into edibles. Anything that's not flower touching but still related to the cannabis industry is an ancillary business. And the way that I like to explain it to people all the time is that Goodyear, they don't make cars, they don't sell cars, right? But they're an ancillary business of the car industry. Everybody knows who Goodyear is. And Goodyear, I'm sure, is a multi-billion-dollar company, right? But it's not because they don't make cars. They just help support the industry. And so those opportunities exist in cannabis as well. And those that goes for everything, how I started doing more content creation, marketing, helping companies with their branding and packaging, that type of thing. So that's a huge opportunity because cannabis can't be marketed right now the same way that most products are marketed, even though it's legal. You don't see cannabis ads on TV, although I am starting to see that. I actually saw one recently. It was like a topical, and it was almost like a Bengay commercial, but they actually said this has cannabis sativa in it, and I was like, is that a cannabis commercial on TV? So it's not a lot of that, but it started. But because there's not a lot of that, the opportunities exist for marketers, influencers, people that want to call themselves influencers, marketers, to present these products to their audiences, and the cannabis companies will pay you to do that. They will pay. So ancillary, and then going down from them, because that's more what I do specifically. But I know people that are doing everything from A friend of mine just yesterday who owns Jerk 48 just opened up a smoke shop. So he's going to sell all of the products that you need to use cannabis, right? So he has pipes and papers and rolling trays and grinders. You can sell that. He opened up the store. Opened up the store because he saw the legalization coming. He was like, man, people need something to smoke their cannabis in. I'm going to sell them papers. That's an ancillary business. And then even a little bit deeper on that same level, again, I know people that are making grinders that are actually making brand new products that already existed, but are making them better. So a good friend of mine works for one of the largest lighting companies in the entire world. And him and I were talking, this was actually last year this time. And we were just talking about the lights and stuff like that. And I said, he's one of the smartest people I know. And I said, well, why don't you, since you know what all these things mean as far as the diagrams and the things that the growers are looking for, I said, why don't you make it better? So he did that. And that's one of the other projects I'm working on right now. We're working on creating a lighting system, and we actually have lights in development. We have 4 prototypes that we've already built and are being used right now to grow crops. And we're still working on perfecting it, but that's just another thing that can be done that's related to this space. But you don't need a license to do these things. Like, those are some of the biggest hurdles when it comes to cannabis is if you want to make an infused product, you need a license. If you want to grow cannabis, you need a license. If you want to sell cannabis, you need a license. You don't need a license to make rolling trays or to take pictures of cannabis. You don't need a license for that. You can do that right now. You can start today.
Now, you are a cannabis weed influencer, right? And what's kind of funny is you've been at this for quite some time, and you've put in a lot of time because I follow you on Instagram. We have actually sat next to one another at a restaurant, not intentionally, right?
That was so great, too.
That was great, right? Because my husband wasn't all right. He like, man, who is this guy, right? Marky, you know him? Like, look, I was generic at the conversation. Marky, you know him? And we end up investing in some marijuana weed as a result of him having a conversation with you because you schooled him and you were so professional with it. But now, when we think about it, I thought the lighting, I'm like, lighting system for all these plants that are growing. Like, who thinks of that, right? So you're very niched, okay? How many publications have you had the opportunity, and you can drop those names, in the past 90 days? Because I was seeing you everywhere. Go on and brag on yourself. Go on and do a little bragging.
Yeah, a little bragging. So it started off with Chicago Sun-Times last year. I was in the Chicago Sun-Times last year, including that cover story that everybody saw on December 23rd. That was twice last year, but I've been in the Chicago Sun-Times maybe 3 or 4 times this year alone because there've been follow-ups. There's still some more stuff that I already did with the Chicago Sun-Times that still hasn't come out, that will be coming out soon. Also did a Time magazine interview that I'm waiting on coming out. I also did an interview with High Times magazine, Chicago Realtor, a few others. I know I'm slipping. I'm forgetting. Time magazine and Chicago Sun-Times meant a lot to me though, and High Times, because that's just an iconic. Publication. But Time magazine, I'm really looking forward to that article coming out. I think it got delayed probably because of the COVID thing, but I'm still in contact with them. And there's just a lot of other things I've done a podcast. I just did a live with one of the youngest Black female dispensary owners in the entire country, Hope Wiseman. Her and I did a live. It wasn't like a publication, but we got a lot of views and a lot of great feedback because her already being licensed, she actually reached out to me when the story in the Chicago Sun-Times idea came out about the delays and how I was upset about the delays. And she actually hit me up and comforted me and just gave me some insight. And I told her, I said, man, that's so great to hear. Other people in my situation need to hear the same thing. Can you share that information with them as well? And let's do it live. And we did that. So that did really well. But Yeah, I've been in a couple papers. But you, come on now.
But look, I pride myself. Now, I let everybody know I surround myself with people who are smarter than I am, okay? And you have schooled me on this space, right? And look, I'm just scratching the surface. And every time I talk to you, I learn something new. And so I take great pride in being around people smarter than me. I don't ever want to look. Imagine if I was the smartest of the people, then we'd have a dang on problem, right?
Yes.
Now, so when we started our conversation, we talked about dreams delayed, right? Because cannabis sales here in the state of Illinois it went. It wasn't, it wasn't like a little come out. It just came and skyrocketed, right?
Crazy.
And it seems like as soon as we were quarantined, it's been silent, right? What's going on today? And like, they don't even report the sales anymore, right? And we knew that first weekend here in the state of Illinois made a lot of money off of cannabis sales.
Close to 40 million that first
Close
month.
to 40. Go drop that. Say that number again.
40 million the first month.
The first month. What's going on in that space today? Because I get my mind is telling me it's a lot going on that we don't know about, which means a lot of people are making money and doing things. And it's kind of like they navigating behind the scenes, because when I tell you, I haven't heard bupkis. So what do you see going on today? And how do you think cannabis sales in Illinois will look through 2020? Because then other people in other states might get an idea.
Yeah. I just parsing my words carefully. The best thing that I can say, this is the second to most recent article in the Chicago Sun-Times was actually about the delays. And the most I can say is that, let me say it this way. One of the main things that Hope told me, the lady I was just telling you about, was that delays with these licenses being awarded are somewhat to be expected.
Okay.
When she told me that when she first applied for her license, that they were delayed over a year from the original date that they were supposed to be awarded. So let me start there, and that other people who have licenses have told me that it's not unusual for the award dates to be pushed back even before COVID. Okay, so let me get that out.
That was real politically correct. Yeah. And let me say this, I get that. We're in real estate. We sell new construction all the time, right? And there's a 12 to 18-month delay due to licensing and permits and things of that nature. So I can get that. Let me ask you this question. I don't know if you want to share this. How many different type of licenses have you applied for? Now, we know you're an influencer, and we talked about lighting, smoke shops, and grinders, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many different type of permits have you applied for or are part of? Because you're not one-dimensional on this. You are going deep on this subject.
Right. Yeah. So I have applied for 10 dispensary license applications in Chicago. I was working on the cultivation app, but I decided to skip this round because we were trying to wrap it up, and then the whole COVID thing started. And so I decided to sit this one out, but I do have some interest in some other applications in other markets as well. But right now I'm just primarily focused on Illinois market and the 10 dispensary applications that I have already applied for, a total of which 3 is possible for us to win. So each entity could apply up to 10 times and then has the opportunity to win a maximum of 3. So I'm waiting to hear back on that. But it's, again, just as far as the put a nice little button on the delays, I'm really hopeful that the state is going to live up to the goals that they set for themselves, right? So I'm hoping that with these delays, all that means is that the people that are qualified, that should get these licenses, actually get those licenses, and it's not the companies that are using people like myself as fronts to get more licenses, which is something that happens a lot with these new licenses being given out, because they're supposed to be minorities and people that have cannabis charges are supposed to have some type of preferential treatment when it comes to being awarded licenses. But that's not what has happened in most states where these social equity programs have been put in place. Now, Illinois has gone further than almost any other state so far. So now they did a good job with the application parts. They did good things to help people be able to apply. Now we're all waiting to see who actually gets these licenses, though. It all sounds good about what you're trying to do, but the proof is going to be in the pudding when people actually get those licenses and see who it goes to. That's really going to be key, I think.
Now, even though we're in the state of Illinois, I know that you spent extensive time, look, especially off the gram, I know you spent a lot of time out in Colorado and out on the West Coast, California, some other locations. So your due diligence is there. What would you tell the younger version of you who think they know it all? What's the first thing? Like, what local resources even exist for them to learn more about this space? And I always tell people YouTube University is the bomb. Sure. But I'm getting the feeling that you need more than YouTube University on this here situation, because there's some conversations to be had that people are not filming.
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest advice that I give people, and it's something I always have kept in mind, I think as realtors, this has really helped me, because we teach, you've taught this before. I'm sure I've heard you say this before. And that's just that relationships are everything. Relationships matter so much, because the way that I really got started in cannabis were from real estate clients that I had who got into the cannabis industry 6 years ago now. And they were clients of mine, some of my biggest clients in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. So I remember when they told me they were going to start working in cannabis, and we laughed at them. I remember that. And now fast forward, that company is Viola, the largest Black-owned cannabis company in not the country, the entire world. But those relationships happened before cannabis, and it happened with me just having integrity and doing my job, right? Doing my real estate job for them, being personable enough to where I could build a friendly relationship with my clients, and then being able to maintain that relationship for years, to where when the opportunity came up that, oh, I want to jump into this space with you guys, there was no question for them about me getting in. They were like, oh, you want to help? Come on. Oh, that's what you want to do? You want to do a blog about weed? Why don't you come out here and we just show you everything? Oh, spend hours. Here's free product. Here's this. Here's that. You should come here. You should come that. Come to this thing. I was in California last summer, and I was only supposed to be out there for 6 days. I spent 3 days in San Francisco, and I was going to spend 3 days in LA. I was meeting with different cannabis companies to talk to them about things, and then I was going to come back home. That company, Viola, convinced me to stay another 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Because it was like, and it wasn't like, oh, just come have fun. They're like, no, we want to introduce you to these people, and so relationships are so major. And then as far as the resources here for locally, Chicago Normal is an organization. Normal is the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. And so they're great as a resource for people, whether you want to get involved in advocacy, if you're interested in applying for licenses, if you just want to know more about the plant science, the medicine of the plant, if you want to just know how you can just be involved and build a like-minded people, Chicago Normal is a great resource for that. And again, that even goes back to my relationships, because the person that I met that introduced me to Chicago Normal is actually dating one of my best friends since 3rd grade. Again, just somebody that I had. And matter of fact, I met her right around this time, because it was Memorial Day weekend when her and I met 2 years ago. And when I walked in, I walked in and to my friend's house, and he had this girl in there I never met before. And the first thing she said out of her mouth to me was, your friend tells me you want to start a blog. What do you need to get started? What's stopping you from getting started? And I said, legal weed. How do I get legal weed in Chicago? Because again, I'm a realtor, so I want to post stuff. I want to post these products, but I can't show illegal stuff. I don't want to lose my license, and I don't want to, so how do I get legal weed? And she said, well, why don't we, do you qualify for getting a medical card? And she told me the criteria that I would need to do. She told me the steps. At that time, when she said that to me, I didn't even know, this is, again, Memorial Day 2 years ago. I didn't even know dispensaries existed in Chicago at the time, 2 years ago.
Really?
No idea.
And let me be clear. Because of the trauma we experience, especially as people of color, I think we can all look, because I just got concealed. So the reason I don't have a card, because I thought about getting one, because I know that it can help me with something, is because of the conceal and carry. And I wasn't willing to take the time to understand the conceal and carry. But a few months back, they tried to assassinate my younger cousin. And I felt the need that I really needed to have my own gun and legally carry it at all times, because I didn't want to jeopardize my license, right? Well, my real estate license. And so you got to understand. And one thing, you have definitely kept it professional. Like, this is not no ratchet, blow smoke on your corner. This is not what this is. And that's why I want to encourage everybody.
A little bit of that. But no.
Well, let me say this, but it's legal. It's legal, puff, right? And your food parent, but I want to come out, let's come back. So we've talked about having great relationships, and people you've been at the right place at the right time on a lot of occasions.
For sure.
But what I've seen, and this is what I tell people in real estate, our fellow realtors, consistency, content, and niche. And you do a lot of video and a lot of photography.
Yeah.
And so everybody they want to be the star, but they don't give star quality, right? Yeah. And so they're not consistent. They don't own their niche. They won't take great photos, and they won't do any videos, right? And you putting all that out there every single day. And actually, there are times I know that you capture content and you like to edit it to get that perfect look and feel, and you will post after the fact. You're not geek to hype to post in the moment, but you're capturing that content all the time.
All the time.
What advice? Well, one, how do people connect with you? Because I happen to know, and this was, what you said to me that was funny. It gets to the point that you consult people and you create content, but then you got to go back and look at your contracts for potential conflicts. So I know that you are available for hire as long as it is not conflicting with any of your other agreements, right?
Correct.
How does one, I want them to see the consistency, like, because you are a bona fide influencer who gets paid to do this.
Thank you.
And as a result, and think about it, we were talking about a blog 2 years ago.
Yes. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea any of this would have.
You've built 10 plus sources of income in one space in less than 2 years. And at the time, you were focused on a blog for marijuana and food pairing.
2018, just speaking specifically about cannabis, 2018, I created one LLC. Last year, I created 4.
Season, look, dreams delayed, because it's coming, right? It's coming. So how do people connect with you? How do they connect?
Yeah, I'm available on all social media platforms. I use my regular name, Michael Malcolm. I do have a handle, Mike G to God. But if you search Michael Malcolm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, my first name, last name, I pop up as a public figure. And I'm always available. Like I said, I am involved in the community. So I push advocacy. So I'm at a lot of the meetings. I'm at Chicago Normal stuff. I'm a member of Chicago Normal. I don't make any money. It's a nonprofit anyway, but you know what I mean? But I participate. I'm on the scene. And I think that's what I could tell anybody who, if they really want to get in the space is that you do need to take action, right? And the action, a lot of times we hear this all the time, and that's that the majority of the success that you're going to have in whatever it is that you're doing is that you have to show up. You just got to show up. You got to be there. You have to, and like you said, consistently show up, put your best foot forward. And then a lot of things, people will find their way. I had no idea that any of the stuff that would come to me was coming. Again, I have 10 applications in for a dispensary right now. 2 years ago at this day, I did not know dispensaries existed in Chicago. I had no clue. And even last year, this time, a year ago, owning a dispensary and applying for a dispensary was not necessarily on my radar. I thought about maybe doing it, but I didn't think that that's what I wanted to do because I saw a way to make money outside of having a license, which is kind of what I was saying. Like I realized early on that I can make money right now in cannabis without cannabis, even at that time, being legal in Illinois, because I just go to a different state where it is legal and make my money there. And then I don't even have to worry about the hurdles of trying to break into a new market here. But it wasn't until last year when some other things kind of fell in place for me that I actually even pursued that as a real goal. So a lot of it, like I said, is just, like you said, being consistent content and just doing it. Stop. At some point, it would be so crazy right now if I had that conversation with you and you encouraged me and then I did nothing.
But let me tell you this, those conversations happen quite often. But you were serious and you were vested. You invested in the equipment. You had blog posts, you had content. You had been out to Colorado. You had done some traveling. I am just in awe of how much has changed and pivot. And actually, you were able to leverage being an influencer into these different opportunities because they already viewed you as credible in the space.
Correct.
And people don't understand the value. I tell everybody reputation is number one. I get hired off of reputation. They know I'm going to show up and show out. And a lot of other people, their reputation doesn't say what my reputation says. So when you show up, you show up. Professional camera, like you're an influencer. I'm in this space, but you got the content. So they've already Googled you and they've looked you up on Instagram and they like, yep, he the real deal. He do this. Look, he do this all day, every day, right?
Yeah, and I was just telling a friend of mine yesterday that, everybody's we all got to go through those grind periods. And, when you're trying to, farm for real estate clients, right? There's a way that you got to go about doing that as well. I also farm for cannabis clients. Like I use so much of my real estate knowledge on cannabis, right? And again, I talk to the people at properties, not to put them out there like that, but I've talked to some of them about my strategies. I've talked to them about some of my cannabis negotiations. Like I'm dealing with this. I got this company telling me this. I got this company telling me this. What's the best way to leverage? And so those conversations are still being had. So real estate just has helped me so much. But I really do think that my idea was to always create value. Creating value is everything. Once you create value for your clients, for your potential clients, they will seek you out. And it got to the point where I had brands last year that wanted me to be a brand ambassador for them. And when the first company asked me that, I got excited. And then very shortly after the third one asked me that, within the same week, it was like all these offers started coming in. Then I thought about it a little bit more and I said, well, I think instead of just being a brand ambassador, why don't you guys help me get my license? Why don't you help me get my license? And I will only work with the company that actually wants to help me get a license. How about that? You don't help me get a license, I'm not interested in being your brand ambassador. like that's how you create that leverage. And but it took time,
Ooh, you look, that, you know what? Now that right there, that was some sexy talking right there. That was like, woo, what you use the word negotiate. Let me negotiate this, right? And no, you gonna help me. One another. It's a win. Actually, it creates a win-win for both parties. And I tell people all the time, you charge a fee. A lot of times I don't get a fee. I get a percentage of the door. And the reason for a percentage of the door, if it fails, we all fail. But if it's good, we all win.
Go do well.
And so I am 100% okay with that. With organizations I know are going to play their role and I play my role. And honestly, I've made more money as a result of door shares than them paying me whatever my rate is, because we're both putting in it. Hold on. Right. So it don't have to be the way you've always seen it. You can create something new, and you're creating something new in this space right now. I want you to tell people where to connect with you, because we're going to disconnect from Facebook and have our own sidebar. Yes.
Okay.
Back to myself, but tell them how to connect with you again.
Yeah. Again, my name is Michael Malcolm. I don't know why I'm saying Scotty 2521. It's like my Yahoo. It's like my Yahoo. I just noticed the Scotty 2521 is popping up. It's like my Yahoo email address. It's like my junk email address, but that's fine too. But you can find me anywhere at Michael Malcolm, all social media platforms, and wetravelfood.com is the website. Go on there as well. We Travel Food on all social media as well.
Well, thank you very much for being here with me today. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It always is.
Thank you.
Thank you.